In the space of just a few years, the UNESCO site at Hegra and the town of AlUla have gone from being unknown to top of the wish list for many a traveller. I'm very excited to be here. In this short film, I'll be taking you first to the tombs at Hegra, then for a wander around the old town of AlUla, and finally I'll provide a short practical guide for visiting this incredible destination.
Welcome to Hegra.
Because the magazines and the internet tend to feature the same tombs over and over again, I thought that perhaps there were only 3 or 4 tombs in total at Hegra. Not at all. There are hundreds. They're not all photogenic, but they all tell us something about the Nabataeans. Now, it may look small, but tomb 117 is probably the most important in the whole of Hegra. It was only discovered 9 years ago when a storm blew away the sand and revealed it. There were 80 bodies inside. It had been undisturbed for over 2,000 years, an archaeologist's dream. It was the tomb of Henat and her descendants, and due to facial reconstruction, we now know what she looked like. Henat was a prominent woman in Nabataean society, and she's become the face of this mysterious lost civilization. From their capital at Petra, 500 kilometres northwest of Hegra, Nabataean trading influence stretched throughout Arabia to the Red Sea coast at Yemen. Hegra became an important trading centre for incense, and as its population grew richer, the stone tombs for which the Nabataeans are famed became ever more monumental. This was a secret Petra, until now. It's very easy to tell the class of the family and the person from the tomb itself. The poor, well, they just look like caves. The middle class, they have some ornamentation. And the upper class, well, those are the tombs that feature in all of the glossy magazines. We're now walking towards the most famous tomb of them all. This is the symbol of Hegra. This is the tomb that appears in all of the tourist literature and has gone around the world since Hegra opened its doors to tourists. And of course, one of the great ironies of this tomb is that it isn't even finished. Why is this tomb unique?
Well, I love that you use unique because in Arabic we call it the unique palace, by the way. So this is the only tomb that has 4 Roman columns, as you can see in front of us now. All the other tombs has only 2 Roman columns. This is the biggest tomb that we have. It's 22 meters high, and it's the only tomb that is carved in its own stone. So basically we call it the unique because it distinguishes itself from all the other tombs that we have in Hegra.
And the best time to visit is the afternoon, isn't it?
Exactly, where there's the shade over here, not the other side.
Why was the tomb not finished?
So basically, when the carvers and the workers who carved this tomb, when they saw that the person who commissioned that tomb to be buried at, he died before they finished the tomb. So basically, they saw that he's dead, he's not going to pay us money, so why should we finish the tomb? Let's stop.
What you have here is one enormous rock monolith, and as you circumambulate, you pass tomb after tomb after tomb. Different classes, of course, different standards of ornamentation. It's a whole city of the dead. And in each tomb there are different symbols and different animals. 2,000 years of wind erosion here in the desert, and you can still see all of the individual feathers as if they were carved yesterday. How do we know that the Nabataeans had contact with the Greeks? Well, look at Medusa. Excavations have told archaeologists that the actual town of Hegra was here on the plain. There'd be one-storey houses and markets and various sacred places, all surrounded by the rock tombs. The people were literally watched over by their ancestors. Over the whole site, tourists are only allowed to enter 1 tomb, and this is it.
Okay, so this is the tomb, and the only tomb that we can go inside Hegra. So you see, we call this lahd in Arabic. Lahd means sideways. So they chose the wall to take advantage of the space of the tomb. So basically, didn't exist when they built the tomb at the beginning. Why? Because when someone dies, they would dig this for him so they can know the height of the person. And we have also, so we have the door over here, and this is the People think it's for ventilation or like for sunlight, but actually this is a much older tomb than this one. So the people who built the tomb that you see, they went inside that door. The ground level was like to the roof, and they went dig inside to make this tomb.
But we don't know what civilization that was.
The older tomb, no. We have no idea about the period. The civilization, we have no idea, but we know for sure it's an older tomb than this one.
So the archaeologists here have a lot of work to do.
They have a lot. And that's the beauty of Hegra, because when you have mystery, you have curiosity.
Our final stop is the Sikh. For the Nabataeans, this was the most spiritual place in the whole of Hegra. Now, this wasn't a tomb. This really deep incision into the rock was an assembly area for the elders. And next to it, the Sikh itself, this was where certain high-class travellers could put their own gods in the various niches. And some left graffiti. And the Sikh was heavily guarded. You had to be somebody special to be able to get through here. On the wall I can see some very, very old inscriptions.
Exactly. And what do you see right now? So there's an inscription that we have, and it's in the beginning of the Islamic period, before they put the dots on the letters. Because the dots were added to the letters in the end of the 1st century, in the Islamic period. That was approximately about 1300 years ago. But the rock art that you see, the camels, are much older than that. And I know from the drawing of the camel is female or male. How do you think I know? I mean, I'm an Arab, it would be shame on me if I didn't know. I have camels everywhere. The tail. People think it's the hump, but actually the tail. If the tail is up, it's male. It's a female. If the tail is down, it's a male.
Well, that was a tour that I'd wanted to do for years, and it does not disappoint. Thank you so much, FJ, for being the best guide in Hegra. One of the most exciting aspects of Hegra is that not only is it in its tourism infancy, but it's also relatively unknown to archaeologists too, especially when compared to sites like Petra or the pyramids. There is so much digging still to be done, so much research, not only to find out more about the Nabataeans, but also who came before them and who came after them. If you've ever been to Utah, then this sandstone landscape will be very familiar indeed. Actually, even without the tombs, Hegra and AlUla would be worth visiting for the spectacular surroundings alone. Which brings me to Elephant Rock. You don't have to spend much time in Saudi Arabia before you see an image of this remarkable rock formation. The elements were commissioned to produce an elephant, and thousands of years of erosion later, this is the result. Now, forgive the cliche, but it is much, much bigger than I'd imagined from photographs. And from this angle, it does actually look like an elephant. You can even see the eye. AlUla's pivotal position on the Incense Road meant that its importance as a trading centre continued long after the decline of Hegra. Centuries of pilgrims travelling south to Mecca have also passed through the oasis town. The modern town is split into various districts, but the tourist focus is on the Al Jadida district and the Old Town. The former is undergoing restoration and growing into its status as the cultural quarter, with art spaces, the peaceful oasis, and a great collection of cafes. The once abandoned maze of mud brick houses and shops constituting the Old Town is the focus of an enormous restoration project, which to date has won various international awards. The part, which is currently open, offers a tantalising glimpse of what is to come in future years. When the sun's blazing down, this is definitely the coolest way to travel in AlUla. Now, I know I'm in the middle of Saudi Arabia, but walking through AlUla Old Town in the middle of the day has a real Wild West feeling about it. The Old Town starts to come alive at night, and it's a great place to buy gifts. Now I need a drink. Obviously not that kind of drink, this is Saudi Arabia. Grape iced tea. And if you like dates and you like cake, well, what can I say? I'm not making any excuses, I've worked hard today. You know, if I were to return to AlUla this time next November, I doubt that I would have this peaceful oasis all to myself. If you're thinking of visiting Hegra and AlUla, then here are a few practical tips. You'll most likely arrive by air, so make sure to ask for a window seat, as the view over the desert as you descend into AlUla is simply breathtaking. The small airport has a boutique feel about it. Don't miss the welcome drinks, and say hi to the extremely helpful staff at the tourism desk. And when you're at the airport, make sure not to miss Clio Dorada by Manolo Valdez. She absolutely glitters in the sunlight. She's stunning. At the moment, AlUla has nowhere near the amount of beds required for the tourist influx that's expected over the next few years. And most of the capacity is in the deluxe end of the market. You'll see all the young, glamorous influencers being put up at the banyan tree. Being neither young nor glamorous, and paying for myself, I'm staying at a family-run motel just outside AlUla called the Diamond. Most of the tours start from here, Winter Park, just north of AlUla town, which has loads of car parking, a small cafe, and very shortly we'll have a visitor centre too. You then take a bus to the visitor centre at the Hegra gate, and if you have your own transport you could also drive here as well. Before the tour starts, you'll just have time to grab a drink, a coffee, and pop in the shop. There are all sorts of ways to experience Hegra, and the Experience AlUla website and brochure gives details of all of the tours, both to Hegra and in the vicinity. I hired a rental car for my visit. You may have read that driving in Saudi Arabia is not for the faint-hearted. Whilst I would agree that driving in Riyadh is no fun at all, driving in and around AlUla is a different experience entirely. In fact, I'd recommend it. The spectacular surrounding landscape is ideal for an Arabian road trip. The residents of AlUla are genuinely pleased to be welcoming the world to their doorstep, and the young people here are particularly excited with all of the new job opportunities available. But there is of course a balance to be struck between the level of tourism, the historical sites, the fragile environment, and the local community. And there is a drive here by the authorities to make sure that even with a huge increase in tourism, it will be sustainable. From what I've seen and the people I've spoken to, I think that is achievable. I really hope that I get the chance to visit AlUla again in the future, and next time I'll give myself more than just a day and a half. If you've enjoyed this film, then please do subscribe to the channel and click notifications, and I'll see you on the next journey.